Hey guys, today I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about what to invest and what to expect when it comes to marketing and advertising for your business. So, for example, we work pretty heavily in the technology space, and we often get asked by organizations whether they're just starting or they're they've been around for a bit and they're just not quite sure, what the next step would be. They often ask, what their budget should be, right? What their investment should be. Never mind, where to put it, just from a dollar perspective. So we have done a lot of research, and that combined with our experience, we found that it does range quite broad, where organizations typically invest anywhere as low as 3% of the total annual revenue, upwards of 30% of the total annual revenue. And it just so happens, maybe not surprisingly, that the larger the organization, when you are on the upper thresholds of the middle market to enterprise, they typically invest actually closer to the lower percentage of their total annual revenue. But it makes sense because they have the means to do it. Where it might be less from a percentage standpoint, they're still investing, could upwards of 100,000 to millions of dollars per month. And with that, they obviously, as long as they're doing it properly, should see a substantial return. Whereas, I guess the catch 22 is for the smaller businesses or those that are starting out. You know, typically, maybe unfortunately, you have to invest a little bit on the higher percentage. Unless you can get some kind of startup capital or funding. It's just kind of the way that it works. So to give you an example, if you're looking to make $1 million in annual recurring revenue, whether you're just starting out or you're even close to hitting it, we have found, again, in most cases, then when you're around about a 10% um, budget off the annual recurring revenue, that should, as long as things are being done effectively, ultimately help you hit that mark, right? Um, so that's just something to keep in mind, food for thought. With that comes some of the basic understanding where the lower the investment, it does offer quick but limited results and it's suitable for short-term goals. So maybe you're doing a sprint or just a temporary campaign, or again, just starting out to get some feelers to see what works versus what doesn't. Once you move up, you hit the medium investment. That's where you start to see the balance as far as speed and returns, and it's ideal for moderate growth and consistent growth. And again, if you have the ability, with the larger budget, higher investments, that aims for significant results. However, at times you may see diminishing returns, but that also kind of aligns with, uh, potentially the market, the industry, and then obviously the channel or method that you're using to advertise. So, looking at it from a broader scale, kind of give you a little bit of an analogy. Again, every business has to start somewhere, right? So if you have the low entry point, which is typically the starter budget, it's still good for setting the foundation. It helps you generate the visibility, with the aim of growing your business. And keep in mind, something is better than nothing, right? Not advertising, not marketing, choosing not to get your name and brand and products and services out there, while you're just asking for the business to struggle, right? So do what you can. Typically, if you're uh, low on cash, then you might have to put in a little bit more time, or you know develop some additional knowledge in order to do that. But there are other resources and other methods which we'd be happy to dive into. But as you kind of scale up, at a certain point, you should reach where you start to experience some profits, right? It might, typically, the less you invest, it might take a little bit longer to see that return. But nevertheless, as long as you're consistent, you should see it. And whereas, again, the higher, entry point or investment that you can make with the bigger budget, that gives you more time, more resources, and leads to faster results. But again, the end goal is to uncover profits, which you can do soon. It's just, you want to make sure that you're working with an organization or you have the team in house, the competence and the expertise to make sure that you are realizing those profits, so you can scale at will and then reinvest any of those returns that you're getting to maximize your profits and ultimately dominate your market. Um, but keep this in mind when you're moving forward, when you're thinking about investing. Again, 10% of your annual revenue is a good marker. Um, but obviously, the more the better, as long as you know what you're doing. So if you need any help, obviously we're here to assist for those that are looking for it. Otherwise, we'll see you in the next one.